the pressure of success. Perhaps you feel it, perhaps you felt it. That's what we're talking about in this training. Yesterday was a Sunday, went to church, and as a part of our pastor's sermon, he talked about being in Disney World recently, and that Disney, brands itself as the most magical place on earth, and some would agree. But as he walked around, as he observed family situations, conversations, he saw two different things. One, people are having the time of their life, enjoying, laughing, fun, rides, high-fiving, all that good stuff. The other side, people are crying, frustrated, hungry, irritable, saying things like, I don't ever want to come here again. And the point is that we see the obligatory photos. You probably have seen them in your Facebook and Instagram feeds where families and people that take their picture in front of the castle, just the thing that you do when you go there. But what you don't see that no one posts is the challenge, the trial, the frustrations, the struggle, the hunger, the days that don't go well. We've been there many times, and I've seen other families who, just had, kids who get sick or whatever, and it just makes it a complicated day. And the point of it is this, is that we are inclined today, especially in America, but most of the world for that matter, that all we talk about and all we see, especially on social media, is everything that goes well, the success, the wins, the amazing thing that happens, all the success stories. And what you don't hear are the trials, the struggles, and the issues that come along with the journey of growth. So as it pertains to building a solid business coaching practice, this is what I want to encourage you with, and I want to give you some things to think about. And I wrote about this today in our community, this very thing, because it's a real thing. This idea that either A, you have to have perfect success, or B, what's this whole, the challenge and the issues and the struggle, the things that aren't going the way that we thought that they would go. Like, what is that? Why? Why is that happening in such a manner that I thought this was going to be simple, and all the issues and things come into play step by step. So here it is. Number one, when it comes to this idea that success isn't avoiding storms, it's actually learning how to navigate them. That's an important thing to understand. So oftentimes when we start something, we're starting because we're excited. We are growing, we're launching something. There is initial just enjoyment and pleasure, and then all of a sudden, then things start to get tricky. They start to get challenging. There's a lot of unknowns. Our enthusiasm, our dopamine, all of that begins to wane and begins to kind of soften up. But we have to be real. Problems, challenges, and setbacks, they aren't signs that you're off track. They're actually signs that you're on track. Look, you're not going to start something and it not have some days. And for some people, and there's a lot of variables here, those challenges could be bigger than others. Sometimes it's on our end. In other words, we didn't choose correctly or make a great choice, lack of preparation, and so on. But a big portion of this is the mental decision and the awareness to be able to say, I understand that I'm going to go through issues. They could be technical issues. They could be issues with prospects or clients. And by the way, they could be seasonal, or it could be sprinkled in kind of throughout the day when it's all said and done. You probably have heard the analogy when it comes to a captain. You've seen probably these cargo ships that, ship-back trade, get my words out, products, say it that way. The containers that are on the ships. If you've ever gone to, ports in places like Miami and down in Texas and along just the Gulf and different places all over the world. And you see these containers that are on ships. Well, those are navigated by captains. Well, the badge of honor for a captain about whether he's really good at what he does or not isn't about smooth sailing. It's actually a captain who is able to navigate the extremely difficult waters. extremely difficult situations. His crew, how to lead his crew during that time, or how to navigate around the storm. Sometimes it's not always about just going through it. It's understanding there could be another path. There could be another way. That is one of the bedrocks of a great captain. Well, how does that speak to you and me? What does that mean to us about learning that muscle to be able to understand how to navigate correctly, and that the more we choose to navigate good, bad, and indifferent versus deflecting from the negative, deflecting the challenge, and oftentimes we get some challenges and it curbs our activity level. We may set down the idea for 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months, and all that's doing is prolonging what it is that we want and where we want to go. The second thing is what we call the power trio: the plan, the pivot, and the progress. All right. Again, we have to understand challenges are not just normal, they're part of the process. So how do we lessen them? How do we go through them? Or how do we go around them? Okay. Well, that's having a plan. We can't just wake up, and I understand that you've heard that before, but my challenge to you and encouragement to you is, do you have a strong plan? If you're launching your business coaching practice, what kind of plan do you have? What kind of process do you have? More importantly, are you actively moving through your plan? Or do you stay in dream state? Do you stay in just the idea state? In other words, you know what, I'm going to get that to tomorrow. Tomorrow's Tuesday. I'll get it to Tuesday. Tuesday becomes Friday. That becomes 3 months from now, and so on. But we have to actively walk through the plan. Here's the pivot. Sometimes the plans don't go the way we want them to go. You look at sports, right? I don't care if it's football. I don't care if it's basketball. I don't care if it's baseball. Every single coach, every single manager walks onto the field, onto the ice, onto the court with a game-ready plan. But if you follow sports at all, watch what happens. Well, when you've got two teams that are competing against each other, guess what? Typically, someone's plan doesn't go to plan. What do? They make what they call adjustments, and you probably have heard it during the reports. They make halftime adjustments oftentimes. So rather than getting up and continuing to do the same thing over and over, we have to analyze, we have to monitor, we have to examine, not just getting up and doing it over and over or just quitting it. We make half-time adjustments. And then we follow the progress. We measure progress. If we see that we're getting some progress where we're going, we continue to work through the plan. If progress is beginning to stall, we determine, should I adjust the plan? Should I change the plan? The last thing I want to do is to stop the plan. But that's what a lot of people do, and not just even in business coaching, but in almost every walk of life. You've likely at some point or another have decided to get healthy, get fit, lose some weight or whatever. You get 2 or 3 days into it, and it's just harder than what you thought. You know, the cravings were different than what you thought. You didn't like the food that you selected like you thought. And what do? You start to cheat, right? You don't exercise like you said you were going to. You eat unhealthy foods or whatever. 2 days becomes 10 days and so on, and you're nowhere close down to the progress. And then there's the third and final element to this. And this is the one that those who are willing, those who are mature, those who have discipline, find what they're looking for. And that is success from the growth. But the element is this: embracing the full spectrum journey. Embracing the full spectrum journey. We cannot afford to inaccurately start and grow. Even if you've started and you've got 2 or 3 clients, it's growing, and maybe it happened in such a manner that you haven't had friction just yet. You want to analyze that a little bit. At some point, there's likely just going to be, not bad, but there's likely going to be some potholes and some divots and some things that you're going to have to go through, that the way you go through it is going to completely change your trajectory and your outcome. But we want to embrace the journey. You know, from our pastor yesterday talked about, God in the moment and in the process of our journey, that he wants to take us from mountaintop to mountaintop. But in between two mountaintops is a valley. Those valleys are designed to strengthen us. Those valleys are designed to encourage us. Those valleys are designed to refine us. And oftentimes those valleys get longer because of our lack of desire to want to learn through the valley. That's embracing the journey. That's saying that, hey, I don't understand this part of the journey, but I'm going to learn. I don't understand this part of the journey, but I'm going to get around someone who can help me. I don't understand this part of the journey, but I understand if I stop my activity, I'm only going to punt the ball down the field on what God has in store for me with my business coaching practice. Cool thing is, you get to choose. You can't choose necessarily what does and doesn't happen to us. Some of that you can, because sometimes the things that do happen to us are our own poor decisions, and sometimes they're not poor by purpose. They are simply they're a decision that I didn't know what I didn't know. Man, I made a lot of those mistakes when I was young. We had our first couple of businesses. Holy smokes! But I was immature. I didn't know a lot. I didn't have a lot of experience. And one bad thing about that whole time, I didn't get around enough people who have been there, done that to learn. That's a huge issue. If I could go back and change anything, I definitely would change that. So we have to embrace the journey of life. In this case, embrace the journey and the joy of developing ourselves to be all that God has called us to be in developing a business coaching practice, where we can add significant value, or we can strategically help someone navigate where they are on their journey with their business. You think about the value that you can bring to somebody else who owns a business that today they're here, they want to go there, but they don't know how to do it. When you can come in and help them to navigate that, good, bad, and indifferent, and you've helped them to move along that, man, that's adding significant value. That's allowing them to be able to hire more people. Think about that. Your work, God can use you and your work to help move the economy forward. But that can't happen if you lay down the activities, if you avoid the challenge, if you overly plan and you don't get out and you build relationships, all because you're not embracing the full scope and you're only enjoying it when things are going well. Look, life's just not meant that way. It's not going to go well every single day. You may go through years of it going really well. But there's likely to be a bump or two. Now, I think that over time, you grow in wisdom, you grow in understanding, you begin to really listen and pay attention to what's happening, and that's going to lessen those bumps and challenges. Everyone's a little bit different, but you can't do any of that without embracing it. So true success, whether you make $10,000 or $10 million, true success, as far as I'm concerned, is embracing the journey, understanding what's happening, paying attention, and not just spinning plates and just going through the motions and hoping. Hope is not a strategy. Hoping that something changes tomorrow. We have to be in it all the way for it to happen. We have to be in it all the way for things to be able to come to fruition. And I'll leave you here. Just like if you were to plant a flower, we annually plant a replant a flower that my daughter, when she was in kindergarten, planted, and it comes back every single year. And this year, because it's gotten bigger and bigger, this year I planted it deeper than ever. And I've been waiting for 2 weeks for this plant to show up. I've been watching the ground for 2 straight weeks, nothing. I begin to doubt. I'm like, did I plant that too deep? Did I kill it? Like what? Where is it at? Well, guess what? Yesterday, for the first time, little bitty sprouts are coming out. First signs of growth from what I've been doing over the last couple of weeks, right? That's a large part of the journey of building a business of any kind, much less a business coaching practice. Different elements and pieces that we do don't show up till down the road. We gotta continue to take action, embrace the journey, learn from the challenges, learn from your mistakes. You're gonna make a mistake or two. That's okay. Learn from it. Learn not what to do, and then teach somebody else not to do the same thing. That's one of the ways that you can pay it forward and advance for someone else, okay? I hope this means something to you. I hope you got some value from this. Don't avoid the journey. Embrace it, all right? Until next time, take care.